All right, here we are back for another installment of GoodPlace podcast. We have been on a little bit of a hiatus here lately, but we are glad to welcome Beth Haycraft today to the studio. How are you today?
Doing well, Brandon. How are you doing?
Scooting
today?
Just a tad.
Just a little more.
There you go.
I'm not loud enough.
No, you're good.
It'll happen. Trust me.
All right, today we've kind of touched in the past on the podcast about mental health. We had our health series back probably a year and a half ago. Wish we'd have had this one on the health. We talked to a nurse. We talked to somebody that is a counselor in the mental health, and I can't actually remember what we talked about during that one. We talked about autism, really good autistic, a really good autism talk. Mm-hmm. I guess we really had a good discussion about it. Everybody's become really familiar with autism, it seems like.
It's become so prevalent.
It really has. But we're going to talk about a disorder today that you're familiar with. It's called dissociative identity disorder, and we're going to hit on that. But first, let's talk about where you're from, where you've been, and where you're going.
Yeah. A little bit of intro is what you're looking for.
Let's do it. Yeah.
I'm actually indigenous to Saltville.
Okay. And so people that may be listening outside of Saltville, Virginia.
Right.
Yep.
This is in southwestern Virginia. And I had 3.5 years of nursing. I have a BA in psychology. I also have a BA in art. I have had a variety of job experiences. I was actually a corrections officer for over 3 years. I worked in, as far as the mental health field, I worked at the Marion Youth Center, which was a level 4 security closed facility, and that was males aged 8 through 18, I do believe.
Okay.
And then I was an intensive in-home counselor for Highlands Community Behavioral Services.
What drew you to the mental health field?
I think all of us get into the mental health profession trying to diagnose our own neuroses. And just to try to find out why do people do what they do. And that is something that, I don't know, I was just always very introspective. And, my family was not perfect like everybody else's. I came from an alcoholic home. My father was a high-functioning alcoholic, and how that impacted me as an only child. And that is something else that is prevalent in Appalachian culture. And now we have so many kids growing up with families that have addiction, drug addiction in addition to alcoholism. Then there's also incarceration. And so all that combines to affect a person.
So touch a little bit about what is a high-functioning alcoholic?
That means that he would go to work every day, never missed a shift of work, and then come home and drink 2 cases of beer a night.
Wow. Man, that's a lot of beer.
Yeah. I don't see how a human can hold that much liquid.
That's a lot of beer.
Yeah, it is. He did not do well with any other kind of alcohol. If it was wine or liquor or anything like that, it had some kind of very, very adverse reaction to him. We had a high degree of Native American in us.
Okay.
Native Americans like an enzyme to process alcohol.
Yes.
And so that's part of the problem.
So it just kind of sticks around in the system.
Sure it does, and it sticks around in the family because when I went to ETSU, it was one of those that exploring. I actually started drinking myself when I was in high school and going through that. That old family tradition thing, then going through AA for over 5 years and stuff like that, and 12 steps are beneficial for everything.
Wow. Like in any walk of life, like it doesn't have to be an addiction.
Right.
Yeah. Kind of elaborate on that a little bit.
As far as the 12-step program and stuff, I think that first step...
How you could apply it like to your everyday life.
Oh, yeah, to understand that we are not in control.
True.
Yeah. Is this where I tell people that I'm also an ordained minister?
Go for it.
Yes, I am actually an ordained minister, and that is one of those things that when people say that, they have a tendency to look at you funny.
Because ordained minister, you could have gotten it off the internet. It could come from
another source. Yeah.
Yep, I did too. Actually,
did you see?
Life Universal Church
out of
Yours California.
Is different. Yep. Mine is I think it's the National Association of Christian Ministers.
Yep.
And I have my little plastic card that says I believe in Jesus hanging on my rearview mirror, so it's always available.
Have you done any weddings?
No.
Have you not? Okay.
No, that's.
I haven't either.
Or funerals. I would rather not do funerals.
Neither one.
I was given the vision of the ministry in 2013, and that our catchphrase for Haycraft Ministries is His hope for those who are hurting.
Yeah. Tell people real quick where they can find you at, and let's get into 2013 and kind of on when your ministry started. Where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube, Haycraft Ministries.
And that's Haycraft.
Yes.
Haycraft
Ministries. And you're welcome to email me if we are willing to listen.
Do you want to give emails or phone numbers?
Sure. As far as if you want to do the email, it's haycraftministries@gmail.com. And as far as, contact me, as far as, I don't know where this is going right now. Okay. Before I give out my
I didn't know if you felt
phone number.
So email is the best way.
Email me, and then I can reach out to someone else.
Okay. So let's talk about 2013 when your ministry started. What was the starting point for your foundation for your ministry?
Oh, total collapse. My world blew up.
Okay, let's backtrack a little bit. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Sure.
Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, let's talk about kind of what led you to the ministry.
Right. My husband and I got married in 2011. This was a God thing from the get-go. I didn't realize that God had kind of set me up, but He did. And my husband was the most wonderful man that I had ever met, even though he had a very checkered past. And the checkered past came from the fact that he was severely abused as a child.
And what I've got printed out from is from Wikipedia about DID.
Sure.
And that's one of the first things it mentions in the paragraph is abuse from the past, childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Is what it, and I'm not sure if that's where the issues stem from.
Yes.
It is, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Usually, and it's during those formative years and stuff like that. And DID, they used to call it multiple personality disorder. And
I guess people probably like around our age would probably know it more from that than the new term for it.
But also it's associated with movies like Sybil.
Yeah.
That's not an accurate representation of that. And I think, I haven't seen it, but I know that M. Night Shyamalan recently, I think it was called Chatter. That was supposed to be about
I'm not really a big movie watcher.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Yeah.
The old movies I do.
Yeah.
But some of these things, it's not Hollywood. The social identity disorder is not Hollywood. With my husband, I had no clue that he had any of these problems when we first got married. I thought that it was as simple as addiction and relapse. Oh no, the relapse relapse is easy compared to DID. There would be times when he would, I would say something to him, and he would respond in a totally inappropriate manner. And I'm like, "What did you hear?"
Like for example.
It would almost be backwards. I could say something to him, and just like, "Okay, did you take out the trash?" or whatever it was, and it was just some very bizarre response. I can't remember verbatim right now.
But it had nothing to do with. For this example, taking out the trash.
Right. And one of the prime ones was I had sent him a text one time. He and I actually had developed a lawn care service there for a while because the Marion Youth Center suddenly closed down, and so I was between jobs because anytime somebody is labeled felon, guess what? They can't find employment.
For sure.
So they're dooming people to poverty.
Okay, so where were you working at then? You just mentioned...
the Marion Youth Center.
Yeah, Marion Youth Center. Okay, gotcha.
Right. And then we developed a lawn care service. We just matter, small business owners trying to get started and stuff like that. And that first year of startup is always rough for any kind of industry. And so that's when I took the job at Highlands Community Behavioral Services as an intensive in-home counselor because we needed, a steady income. And so he had to get people to fill the job, to help him with it because autumn was coming on and tree cutting and stuff like that.
So y'all did it all, lawn care and tree cutting, to carry you through the whole season. Because some people around here and people that may be listening outside of our area, lawn care is only like an 7 to 8 month thing out of the year, and then some of them don't do anything. Some people that have lawn care businesses don't do anything for the wintertime, but some people will do things like cut trees and do other things too. So that's kind of what your business was at that point.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it was just one of those, it's like, yes, I used my pudge for the power of good as far as when we were hauling things.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. It's a good thing that God did not make me one of these little twiggy women, because I've got some stuff behind me and I use it. So he had to get 2 guys to take the job that I was doing.
Wow.
Again, it was a matter of cutting the trees and
It
stuff.
took 2 men to replace your job. Wow, that's pretty.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
I don't do trees. I don't know if they're if it's on the ground. I can
okay.
prune, but no. And so it was a matter of seeing his him change and not really knowing what had happened. And I had sent him a text one day at work, and it came back with the name Renegade. And I'm like, what?
Huh.
And I
so how you can put on a text, you can maybe put your name on it,
yes.
and like and it always will be in every text. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And I called him and I'm like, what is this? Who is this? And he's like, oh, well, this is something that people used to call me. But like, who people?
Oh,
what
okay.
people? And it was just bizarre.
Yeah.
And so it's like, then it was I need $30. I need $30. And I'm like, when you're only making a certain amount per week and you're paying bills and buying food and everything out of that. And it got to the point I told him, I said, look, this lawn care service is either going to have to be nonprofit.
Yeah.
Or, if it's a business, it's going to have to hold its own. I cannot continue. And so
you were pumping money into what you're working at the Highlands Community Center, and you're pumping money into the business out of that career.
So I had suspected that there was an addiction issue at that point. And of course, any addict, the first thing is denial.
Yeah. What year would this be in?
This was 2013.
This is 2013. So before you started your ministry.
Yes.
Okay.
And so it finally got to the point that I told him, I said, look, you're going. This is not working. And Michael and I had never argued. Very rarely.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have differences.
How long did y'all know each other before you got married?
Probably over 9 months.
Okay.
Because he was incarcerated while God married us.
Okay.
And during that period of time, getting to know each other, we wrote phone calls. We knew each other better than most people who are out here on the street know each other.
How did you guys meet?
He was a trustee and I was an officer.
Okay.
And that caused a lot of flack.
Okay.
While I was in uniform, I never so much as held his hand.
Okay. I'm just trying to paint a picture for people that are listening. If you don't feel comfortable answering anything, just don't answer it.
We on YouTube, so it's like everything's out there. And that there were, even though I had already taken the job at the youth center, and I just finished out my tour of duty there at the jail and stuff, and even though I was no longer an employee, I mean, they retaliated against this man. They sent him to Hayside. There were people that I trusted and that I thought knew me for over 3 years turned their back on me. They told horrible things about us. Nobody ever bothered to call and said, hey, is this true? Because I would have told them no.
They'd rather just take a rumor or gossip and paint it or plant the seed or whatever they're going to plant.
Sure, and he had been a trustee for almost 3 years. That's the lowest security.
Yeah. So as a trustee, was he out doing like work on the highways and the interstates and things like that?
Yeah, and so they shipped him from Abington and they sent him to Hayside. No write-up, no reason. Put him in Max. Put him at risk. Here he was a nonviolent offender. His crime was that he had taken window screens and guttering that he had paid for and installed on a home. When the homeowner refused to pay him, he uninstalled them, laid them in the yard. I would have done the same thing. And they gave him 7 years.
Wow.
And so
that's a petty crime. Like that's not even
but it's like when somebody has a record, what they do is they keep upping the ante.
Yeah.
And I don't see how that's not some form of double jeopardy. Because they are not charging someone for the same crime, but they're using the judgment.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, definitely.
So,
some form of a double jeopardy.
It is. And so they put him over in Hayside, which was 2 hours from me, and put him in a cell with somebody that had been accused of shooting someone in the face with a .357 Magnum.
Wow.
Now, someone could wonder whether that was color of law abuse and or retaliation.
It's interesting that we're talking about this right now, and as as you and me kind of are getting to know each other too, things will branch out and our ADD will take us to where the conversation will go.
Yes.
There was an article I saw on social media yesterday about the overcrowding in Sullivan County Jail.
Right.
And they're going to have to really start letting people go for petty crimes.
And Sullivan County was one of the worst places that Michael was held.
So he was in Sullivan County here in the Tri-City areas as well.
Absolutely. I fought them every tooth and nail over everything. Even as far as transporting him, what they did, they took him from Dyer County, Tennessee. They had when they transport somebody, they got them in full restraints, which means handcuffs that are attached to a waist belt plus shackles.
Hey, that's a little much, right?
Yeah, that's an 7 or 8 hour drive back up here. And so if he had to go to the bathroom, what they did, they would stop at a public restaurant and parade him through like he was some kind of circus freak.
So it's like they used humiliation as well.
Absolutely. And so Sullivan County, they had so many people that they were giving them blankets to sleep on concrete because they didn't even have
That's what this article, I will send you this article after we're done here. They were talking about the overcrowding and how many people were sleeping on the floors and things.
It's unsanitary.
That's insane.
And then you had, as far as his medication, because he was on psychiatric medication, from the time that he was incarcerated, and fighting to get his medication, fighting to get some mental health professional to go and see him.
Yeah.
And, he actually had an officer that threatened him.
Yeah.
And, this type of thing.
Well, this sounds like the opposite of Orange is the New Black. This does not sound like a place that you really want to go.
No, this sounds very much like Thunderdome.
Yeah, okay. I gotcha. For some of the older listeners out there, they'll know what Thunderdome is.
Yeah. And it was like, what was the most horrific thing that happened? It was in July of 2015. And Michael called me and he said that there was a group of, and it's obviously some kind of training exercise. And he said that you've got a pod, it was an open pod of sleeping men that were awakened. They call it a flashbang. And that is like a firecracker. And people in riot gear screaming down on the ground. Now that would cause PTSD in anybody.
Yeah, most definitely.
And then they opened fire on them with pepper balls. Now pepper balls are like paintballs, only filled with pepper spray.
Is this fun and games? Is that what this whole thing is about?
I don't know. But I know that as far as the injuries that some of the other inmates had, because during video visit, I saw the bruising.
So all you get when you only get to see him through video.
Well, no, I mean as far as with Sullivan County. Yes.
Oh, okay. So we're just talking about that. Okay.
And so it was insane. He had a paid attorney. Now Dyer County had already given him his sentence. That was a done deal, and they had said it was a matter of 1 year, pay back all the fines, and then they would release him. And then Sullivan County, somehow the DA talked to the DA from Dyer County. Now he had a paid attorney, and that never once was his mental health condition ever presented in court. When he went up for parole the first time in 2015 and all the conditions for Dyer County had been completed, we found out that the DA from Sullivan County had handwritten that he was not to be considered for any early parole or release. So somehow Sullivan County undid what Dyer County had already court ordered. Now, I have never had anybody explain that to me.
Man.
And his attorney would not return my phone calls, these type things, and it was just all this bogus, BS. Every time that I would see him, there was an excuse. The excuse is this man had 3 Axis 1 mental health diagnoses that was never presented, because that was and is why he has the criminal record that he does.
And this in America, we're really going to start tackling mental health. Me and you have talked about that a lot. Let's go back to the text message about Renegade.
Right.
So we're backtracking a little bit back to 2013. Right. Okay. So back then, what did you see any signs of DID at that point? Because you've been in the field,
right? Or
was it kind of like that you were around him so much you didn't, you were maybe biased, or I guess developed like an unbiased?
The interesting thing about DID, there's no bells, there's no whistles when somebody switches. And I wish there were bells or whistles.
Yeah, it'd be nice,
so
right?
Much easier. But it was just a matter of behavior sort of eroding to the point that it's like, look, you're going to have to go someplace else for a while. Now, this was a man that I loved more than my life.
Uh-huh.
And he had told me, he said that he had this anger, this rage, and that he asked to go up to my mother's cabin for a few days. He said, I've got to get this out of me. And I'm like, what? What do you have to get out of you? And he was truly afraid that he would say something that he would regret, or that, like I said, that it would cause me to hate him. And so he left our home, and you talk about a broken human being. Oh my God, I was just beside myself.
Wow.
And so he was up there for a couple of days, and he sent me a text, and he said, I'm looking in the mirror and I don't know who I see. Okay, I had no clue. I totally missed that, because other than hearing about multiple personality disorder at one point in an abnormal Psych 101 class, that was it.
Did you do all your undergrad work at ETSU?
No, I did part of it there, but no, I actually graduated from Emory and Henry.
Okay.
In 91.
All right.
And so this started this amazing.
This wasn't something talked about.
No.
At that point in time.
No. And even now, within the mental health community, there is a great amount of debate. And I have confronted people online about, as far as some of the mental health professionals, or we really don't believe that. I have told them before, go talk to my husband. Here's his TDOC number.
Do they contact him?
No, of course not.
People don't want to put their money where their mouth is, right?
They don't. They really don't. And it's easy, because this is one of those invisible disabilities, which is all mental illness. People think of mental illness as somebody that is schizophrenic, that is going around disheveled, muttering to themselves. And
you do see that. I mean, but...
Sure.
But like you said, in this instance, it's masked.
Right. And it's like, I asked one of the representatives from NAMI in Virginia one time, I said, what is the face of mental illness? And she paused and she said, it's all our faces.
That's right.
Because everybody has their something. And as far as my husband, because, to look at him, you wouldn't know. And there are times that I still have to ask him, which one of you am I talking to?
That was my next question. You've mentioned to me in the past that there's three different...
That have been identified so far.
So describe those for the listeners.
One of them is the person that we call Little Michael, and he's probably under the age of 10. And this is very apparent when the child persona comes out. There's some people that call them parts. There's some people that calls them alters, whatever they want to do. It is a fracturing of spirit is what it is. And very childlike, even as far as how he speaks, the cadence. There is this very peculiar laugh that Little Michael does.
So this is beyond somebody just trying to be funny.
Oh yeah, it's not funny at all.
Yeah, this is something that it just switches automatically.
Right. For a 40-some-year-old man to fold his legs on the armchair of a couch under him and sit on it like that. No, that's
like Indian style,
like child style.
Okay.
Exactly. Just how a kid would climb up on a couch on the arm of a child.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Gotcha.
Yeah. And then there are two teen personas.
Okay.
One of them, the only one that did have a name for itself, was Renegade. And we're still trying to figure it out.
So is there four of them?
There is the core.
Okay, yeah. So okay,
the man that I married.
So you've got one in the middle, and then they're all like rotating around the core. Okay.
And the one that we called the anti-Michael, because he was so polar opposite to the man that I married, that it would make your head spin.
So the man that you married, how would you describe how he acts? I get normally, for lack of better term. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and that's one of those things. It's like I have sat and asked myself, okay, which one did I marry?
So did the anti-Michael go to the cabin and need to relieve frustration?
I think that it was the anti-Michael that apparently has the addiction issue.
Okay, so
he drags the others with him.
So there is an addiction issue. So that, going back to the 2013, the text message, you would start suspecting with the $30 here, $30 there, that there was an addiction. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Okay. Well, it actually stems back from beyond that. when Michael, the abuse started when he was very small. We don't even know what age, but he began drinking when he was 8.
Wow.
And that is something that
beer, liquor,
whatever was in the refrigerator, okay. He would gather it into a pillowcase. He would go to a fishing hole someplace. They didn't even know where he was.
Now, he grew up in Saltville as well?
Oh, no. He's from Dyersburg, Tennessee.
Okay, that goes back to Dyer County then. Yeah. Okay.
And it is like, I felt like I was in a different world there. I mean,
even more than Saltville?
Yes. And I would speak in a store.
I don't mean anything bad about Saltville, by the way.
I mean, we all inbred in you too. That's what we are. But the people in Dyersburg, it's like I would say something in a store and they're like, "You're not from here, are you?" And I'm like, No, I'm not.
Oh.
And it's flat land.
It's like a city.
Do well with flat land.
It's like a city out of like a Stephen King movie or something like that.
It's a farming community.
Okay.
And that this is another area in our country that was sort of NAFTA'd away.
For people that don't know what you're saying, the millennials may not know what you mean by NAFTA'd away. Explain that.
Oh, it's the North American Free Trade Association. That was the agreement that somehow they thought it would be for the betterment of this nation to send all of the industrial jobs out of here.
And so it happened there. Bristol didn't. I guess Bristol did do it.
Oh yeah,
we were affected by it as well.
Oh yeah, Smith County was too. I mean, after I graduated high school, I gave myself 2 weeks off, and I went to work in a sewing factory until time for college. Yeah, I mean, it's a hard work. It don't kill you.
Yeah, that's right.
Much to popular, dismay. But these things, people were able to have factory jobs. They were jobs to where they could afford to have, feed their family. Have a home, a vehicle.
I mean, you can make a career out of an industrial job at that point in time.
You could, and without that, when those jobs left, that increased poverty. And when you've got increase of poverty, I mean, what are you going to do?
We got depression.
Sure,
you're going to have addiction that is on the rise, which I think is what you're getting at. Yep.
Sure, increase of theft, increase of even as far as assault and stuff like that. People just frustrated.
Yep.
So it's this vicious cycle. And even as far as government housing and different things like that, my God, years ago I found out that there are homeless people that are encamping behind some of the housing projects here in Bristol.
Wow, no, that does not surprise me about Bristol.
And so, how did this happen?
I don't know. That's mental health.
Yeah.
Got to tackle it.
Well, it's that, and it's also that we have a group of people in our area that are in denial themselves.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
That they think that the problem is someplace else.
Well, you can't sweep it under the rug.
No, you can't sweep it under the rug. And especially when addiction has, I don't know that there are many people that I even know that it has not affected them and their family somehow. It's not that these are bad people. Addiction is a nationally recognized, recurrent medical condition. So we're punishing people for being sick.
For sure.
And within the prison population, I've different statistics. I've heard anywhere from 25 to 35% of the population has a severe mental illness. Those are the ones that are diagnosed. Because a lot of times when somebody's incarcerated, they don't take the time to do a proper assessment and evaluation to find out the ones that are not diagnosed.
Well, and the thing about somebody being behind the prison walls is that we don't see them on a daily basis. So we have no clue what's being done to them behind the prison wall. They're probably not even analyzing anybody. They're probably not taking their care into consideration.
Sure.
The medication thing is probably, I'm just saying, because
different places,
knows that they're not getting the proper medication they need to balance themselves out.
And it depends on where they are. There are some facilities that are doing it right, and then there are some that are just sadistic.
Who's doing it right?
Bledsoe Correctional Complex.
Okay.
That's where Michael is at this point. I know that.
Where's that at?
It's in Pikeville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And I know that Mountain City, which is Northeast Correctional Complex, when he was there, they were good to him. There was one incident that we had as far as officers saying something really offensive. And this is something that and I actually went to a corporal over it. And he squelched it. And what it was, you have this horrible prejudice against people that are incarcerated. Everybody wants to look at them, it's like, oh, they're bad people. No, the behavior was not acceptable according to society. Why did they do the behavior? And if they look at somebody as bad, then they want to judge themselves as good.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and
we gotta compare ourselves to something, right?
Well, what we're supposed to compare ourselves to is God's standards.
Yeah, I agree.
And we all fall short. And so,
one of my main goals in life, and I've been getting a lot better at it through the years, is I don't want to judge anybody.
Right.
I take people for who they are and for what they present, and I hope that people take me for the same.
Yeah.
Is that wrong?
No.
Right?
Everybody's got good days, got bad days.
That's true.
And it's a matter, if somebody's having a bad day, ask them. Talk to somebody and say, you seem like you're having a rough day.
Yeah.
You've been acting out of character today. What is going on with you? And humor is an amazing thing to open many doors with people.
It is. You're exactly right.
And so that's one of the things I've got different we've all got different personas that we present. It's just that we have memory to tie them all together. But
interesting. That's pretty deep.
And this one officer had made this absolutely ridiculous joke about prison sex. Now let me tell you something. For somebody to rape another human being, that is not funny.
No.
And especially to make some kind of innuendo towards my husband, who was raped repeatedly when he was a child. Oh, I went off.
I would say.
And it was one of those, how dare you? Because I have always, I don't know, there was just part of my spirit that knowing where he has come from has been just protector. You know?
Well, I mean, it's like, do you not have any feelings? I mean, this guy obviously doesn't have any feelings because he didn't take the person's feeling or character into consideration at all.
Right. And this is okay because what they do, anytime that you label a human being, you dehumanize them. And as we have seen historically, anytime that any group was dehumanized, and we see this going on, it's rampant in our world today, it made it very easy to view them as less than human, and so it was okay to mistreat them. Yeah.
The psychology behind it.
There is an interesting gentleman, his name is Zimbardo. I'm trying to remember. You can go on YouTube and it's called the Lucifer Effect. He did the Stanford prison experiment. I wish I could remember his first name right now. That is one of the most enlightening things
what's
that's
the name
ever done.
The Lucifer Effect?
Yes, you can do it. The Lucifer Effect, and there is actually a movie that was made about the Stanford prison experiment. It may have been Philip Zimbardo, I'm not sure right now. But he was a researcher, he was a psychology researcher. That is him, I think. Let's see what it's got. Yes, Philip Zimbardo. Hey, I didn't.
You're right. Yeah, you got it. Didn't you have to use a computer?
Yeah, good. And so within that, he took a group of college-age kids and stuff, and just randomly, half of them were going to be guards, half of them were going to be inmates, just to see what would happen. It was someplace there in Stanford that they had designed to be the prison. He was going to be the warden, and I think it was like after days that they had to pull the experiment, because that the people that were the officers had become so ridiculously abusive.
That fast?
Yes. And it was a matter of power. And it's also one of those that, because that I did go through the academy and I do know how we were trained, and it's called officer presence. Now you can stand there big and bad when you know that you've got 15 people that you can hit the radio and call. But guess what? If you understand that that's another human being in front of you, and you can say, hey, what's going on here? Explain to me why you're upset.
Well, we've seen a lot of this happening with African American males. It seems like that officers are taking advantage of
a lot of that
officer presence. Is that what you called it?
It is, but it's also one of those, as far as statistically, and I please do not think that I am downplaying as far as the African American community, because these guys, but actually statistics show that an unarmed Caucasian male gets shot more frequently than an African American.
I believe you're right. I've looked into these stats before, and it's just not something that it's not on the news.
No, it's not on the news.
Yes, it's not on the news.
But it's a matter of also, there's this YouTuber, and I can't remember what it is, The Amazing Lucas. He's a young black man. He's wonderful. And he has a saying, like, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And if you go in, I don't care what color you are. I don't care if you're green. If you go in a store and you rob somebody and you threaten somebody and then the police say down on the ground and you running or you reaching around your waistband, guess what? You're going to get shot. You know?
That's it, yeah.
And it was just like they told us, even if we were ever out of state, which I don't know, they gave us the same training as the road officers around here. I mean, like our jurisdiction was a mile around the jail. But they said, you know, if you were supposed to say I'm an out-of-state officer, and whatever the police officer said to do, you did.
The protocol.
Yeah. You know, and that was just, so I don't understand, and part of it has become a defiance towards authority. Because
where do you think that stems from?
Oh, I think a lot of it has to do, we have so many people, we've got statistics. I think that originally when I first started researching, I think it was 2.2 million people incarcerated. I think that statistic has gone up. That did not count the people that were previously incarcerated. It did not count the people that are on community supervision, which is parole and or probation. So you've got a whole lot of Americans out there. Then you've got the kids of these Americans, the families of these Americans. And so a lot of this has to do with the officer presence, not just towards the inmates, but towards families. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you something. We are viewed and treated as if we were convicted ourselves. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know that I went to Bristol.
Are you talking about the officer role, or are you talking about? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, any of us that's like, how dare you, be married to somebody who is on that side of the glass.
Wow.
Yeah, it's my husband one time said,
it's like a traitor or something.
It was, and that was exactly how we were treated when the facility found out about our relationship. They refused to allow us to get married. Now, we could have gotten married over the phone.
Yeah.
That would have given me legal rights and stuff like that. No, they wouldn't, because it was almost as if we were a 1950s interracial couple.
So is your marriage on record now, or?
Oh yeah, we've been legally married.
Okay, so it's legit.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, we've been legally married. We've got like 4 anniversaries. That's a story in itself. But it's unbelievable. And this man, when he hit about the age of 12, he started acting out, and that is typical for people who have been abused as children. Now, he had already started drinking because that's what he saw around him all the time. Okay. That was what his people did. And
so you got the drinking, acting out. What other actions?
His oldest half-brother had introduced him to marijuana.
Okay.
And actually, that's one of those things that it probably calmed him down.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But as far as the anger issues, and he was getting old enough to where he could fight back.
Okay.
But it's also, that was when they started to incarcerate him when he was 12.
Wow.
Destruction
so like
of property.
Juvenile detention type of thing. Oh
yeah, they sent him to a juvenile facility where he was beaten unconscious by officers. He was shanked by another kid there.
It's a rough area.
It's just
right?
This is how this is, because now let's look at this. Who is incarcerated? People with behavioral problems, psychological problems, drug and alcohol problems. Now, and this is the formula that's very easy, and this back when I was an officer. Okay, if somebody gets arrested the first time, yeah, they probably did something really stupid. They made a poor life choice. If they get arrested twice, okay, that's a red flag. If they get arrested 3rd times, they need a forensic psychological evaluation. Okay. Yeah. We need alternative treatments to this.
So moving on through Michael's life. Sure. So now we're in teenage years. Mm-hmm. What age does the DID start showing up?
It was there.
Oh, really? Okay, so it doesn't...
Nobody ever recognized it within his family because they did not know him well enough. They did not pay enough attention to him.
Wow, so
and
I know,
nobody stopped the abuse.
So I know, like with schizophrenia, in African American males, usually presents itself in its 30s and 40s.
It can, but
So
a
it's
lot of
not-
times there's symptoms. A lot of times with schizophrenia, teen years and stuff like that. I don't know if that's specific to that race. I haven't studied that. I haven't broken it down.
That's a stat I pulled from way back in psychology years ago.
I know that there are certain diseases that can present later in life, but usually they present about 12, 13.
So the signs were there all the time. I mean, with DID, and this may not be something you can, I mean, are all of the different personalities there the whole time, or do they create themselves throughout time?
It's a matter of they can create throughout time, but usually as far as when somebody's an adult, they're not going to get DID. And DID is almost like having a filing cabinet, and you've got different drawers.
Yeah, okay.
That contain different files, and those different files are different.
That personality.
Different personalities and stuff.
So it's not something like that somebody will develop in their 40s and all of a sudden
No,
you get diagnosed.
Right. You can have trauma and different things like that. Sabrina's the one you need to ask on that. But as far as that type of trauma to where you would develop DID, no.
Okay.
It would be highly unlikely. Now, you can dissociate. Everybody dissociates from time
I agree.
to time.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, it's like driving home, and you arrive home, and you're like, I don't even know how I got here.
But this is a difference in what we're talking about. Are you in a good mood or in a bad mood? Some people's moods fluctuate. This DID is different than
totally
that. Like
different.
you're not dealing with somebody that's just in a bad mood.
No.
Somebody that's just in a good mood today.
No.
You're dealing with a different person.
Yes.
And so with the personalities, this is interesting. With the personalities, is there belief systems with each one of those personalities?
This is what I'm trying to figure out on some of it, and Michael is trying to find that out within himself.
Does he communicate this stuff with you?
Yes. Yes, he
With
does.
the different personalities, like I am little Michael right now.
No, he doesn't do that at this point. Now, I have interacted with him. He went into crisis twice before his incarceration. And
Tell people what crisis is.
Crisis is that he was having a mental health crisis. The first time was that he had to be hospitalized because he had made it was a threat of self-harm, which means that he had written a letter detailing a plan to harm himself.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so he was hospitalized in Clearview. And then the second time was an attempt. That was
Okay.
down in Dyer County. And it's like I walked in, and it's like he was in the bathroom floor, and there was a bottle with a few pills left and stuff. And
Oh, wow.
kinda
That's scary.
The rescue squad and everything like that, and me screaming at him, trying to get him, and then going to the ER, and then the attorney telling me if I don't appear in court that they will come and chain him to the bed. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That pause was necessary.
Yeah. And so it was one of those explaining to the hospital, this man has DID, do not let him out of your sight.
Yeah.
By the time that his mother and I went back to court, now remember I hadn't brushed my hair, I could not tell you. Now I probably look like something wild,
It's all right though.
What are you looking at me? So we pull back up to the hospital, and I look, and there is Michael standing on the sidewalk, and I'm like, what? And it was just, here he is in hospital gown, one hand holding the back of it closed, the other one
I'm here.
with a
I'm here.
cigarette, him hollering, and it was game plan. It was automatically, crisis mode. It's like I told her, I said, you go get him. I'm going to go upstairs to find out.
Yeah.
And what had happened, one of him had wanted a cigarette. And Michael, this was the first time that he was aware of this internal conversation. And it went something like, one of the other ones said, I don't have a cigarette. The other one said, go get one. I don't know how to go get one. I'm hooked to all these machines. I will show you how to unhook them. And whichever one it was did, so that no alarms went off.
So you're familiar with Sigmund Freud?
Yeah.
Ego, the id, the superego, and the ego.
Right.
Is there any chance that that's what the DID is these things communicating with each other? Because they're just in your exam, there's got to be people out there that have more than just three.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of
with
people
this,
lots.
with your case in particular, and Michael's case in particular, there's 3 there, and those things communicate. They all say different things,
Right.
according to Freud. Do you stock any interest in that at all, or no?
No, not really. I mean, Freud was interesting on some things. Even he said sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. I think it'd be interesting to do a paper on analyzing Freud. But with this, biblically, when it talks about, that God is close to the brokenhearted, and I wish I should have researched and gotten the Hebrew and or Greek word for that. It meant to take a vase and throw it against the ground as hard as you possibly can and to just break it.
Fragments.
Yes. And that is what happens to the spirit of a child when the people that are supposed to protect and provide for them break that breach of trust. It is that fragmentation of spirit. And that the alternate personalities develop just to help them. It is a coping mechanism to help them live through the hell that they are, that otherwise they would just die.
So I like this vase analogy. Let's go with that for a second. So with this, the vase breaks. You may be trying to glue what should have been the top part of the vase to the bottom part of the vase, and it starts to form itself back into a vase, but it with different pieces everywhere from the vase, taking different positions where the vase is at. Well, is that kind of what you're getting at?
Well, sort of, but
with the personalities. With
the personalities, there is not. Some of them have shared memory, and some of them don't.
Okay.
And the anti-Michael was the one that was the keeper of the memories for the rest.
Okay.
Because my husband, core personality, he would wake up and after 9 months, he woke up and he said there was this internal voice, which I thoroughly believe was God, which said, "You go home." He had no idea of anything that occurred in the past 9 months. That is called psychogenic fugue. That is a dissociative state. And it's when one of the other ones was in control.
Wow, for 9 months?
Oh, God, yeah. And it involved police in 2 counties and everybody. And it's like the police thought I was crazy. I went back with the diagnosis and I showed the detective. And he literally did. He said, "We thought you were the one that was crazy."
So what's the solution?
What is the solution? And there are different theories on it. For us, integration is what it's called. It's the parts becoming whole.
Now you're talking about for us as a counselor, you're talking about for us as in you and Michael being married. Okay, so you're talking about as a couple.
Because to allow each part to continue on its own journey, to me, is like resignation to be broken. And so, did you ever read Interview with the Vampire?
Of course.
Claudia?
Yeah.
Okay, this character was child body but adult mind. And in some ways it's almost reversed. These people, it's called arrested development. They are frozen in development until they come to understanding that each one of them, that it's okay to grow up.
Yeah.
And now it does not take the same amount of chronological time for them to advance.
Okay. Because
you've got 40-some-year-old body, and then you've still got part that is 10 years old and has been 10 years old for 30-some years.
That's interesting. That's mind-blowing.
And it's like little Michael deserves to not only to play, but he also deserves to grow up.
So that's part of the solution, though, is the personality's got to play itself out. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's a matter of, as far as play, I really literally have a Transformers, one of the bumblebees, waiting for him when he comes home.
Yeah.
And
so let him work his way through that.
Yes. And when they feel that it's safe for them to progress the way that they need to trust each other enough to become whole.
So does a convergence ever happen?
Yes, and there have been signs of integration even while he's been incarcerated. It's interesting because there is one that has now identified itself as Sam, and we do believe that may be the name of Anti-Michael. And his writing, I'll have to bring you examples.
So even that's another. So the writing is even different.
Yes, because my husband, like I said, he's like me. He has to have readers at this point. And the font size is smaller than this.
For which one? For Sam?
For Sam.
Okay.
And Sam has taken up Bible study. For real.
So does Sam write in cursive, or does he write?
It was printing.
In print.
And it was a totally different style than my husband writes.
Does your husband write cursive or print?
Oh, he prints, but it's a very, everybody's got a very characteristic handwriting. But this is just totally different. I had to bring you the example.
Yeah.
I'm excited to let you see that. And one of them had written, or I think that they had to do like a graduation for a therapeutic community there last week. And when he read it to me, I knew it was brilliant. And my husband, God love him, he's not a stupid man. Even though there are times that he reminds me terribly of Spicoli.
We talked about that.
Yes,
I love it. I love it.
Yes, we did. And it's like there's only one of him that's Spicoli. So I'm hoping for the other ones. But because he has not had the educational opportunities, and that's true of anybody. And a lot of times they label themselves as stupid.
Well, and the DID may hold back.
Absolutely.
That.
But it's also one of those that whichever one had written this was brilliant. And as my husband was orating it, and he's like, "This has words I don't even know." And I said, "Well, one of you does." And it was just phenomenal. And for these parts, if Sam / Anti-Michael was the one that was holding the secrets, and secrets do keep us sick, of the sexual abuse, and now he's told. It's out.
So the sexual abuse has come out.
Absolutely. And excuse me, if you go to Haycraft Ministries, one of the last videos that's on there is a recording of my husband telling his story, which does detail the sexual abuse.
Like a testimony? Is that okay?
Yep. And so if that was the role of that altar, to protect that secret, okay, he gets to do something else. Because that secret is no longer kept.
He gets to grow past that.
And to explore who these people are. And like I said, it's the only thing, all of us have different facets. It's like a diamond, and they have the different sides to it. What ties us together is memory. And so for people with dissociative identity disorder, if they do not have shared memory, then that's, how can you learn from the past if you can't remember it?
I wonder, even, you're talking about the personality is not sharing memory. With somebody with DID, do they perceive things differently?
Oh, yeah.
Like even their vision may change?
Yeah, there are some that can wear glasses where other ones don't. There are some that can like spicy foods and other ones don't.
Man, this shit's blowing my mind.
Oh, yeah.
It really is.
It's hardcore. It's hard to wrap your head around.
It really is.
And it just, and there are a lot of resources out there, but you have to really search for them.
And this is something you've done because this is close to your heart.
Yes, I've researched. Yes, I think that they should give me just an independent master's degree in this. But yeah, once you live it, and to sit there and going back in retrospect, we could sit there and go, "Oh, that was that one. Oh, that one did that one. Oh, and little Michael, please do not announce when you pass gas in a public place."
Yeah.
Yes, I did live.
So I was going to say you had to live that one.
And so it's a matter of you also have to. You get tired of trying to explain to everybody else what the problem is. Because there's always going to be people that they don't get it, they don't understand what it is.
They're not going to wrap their heads around it no matter what.
Right. And so it is a matter of families.
Nor accept it.
No.
Yep.
No, they don't want to. And like I said, some of the worst ones on any of this stuff are the court systems, cops. Now, cops are on the front line dealing with people that have mental health issues. And it wasn't that long ago that Washington County, Virginia, made the announcement that they no longer want to transport people who had mental illness. Okay, who's left? Now, we need crisis intervention teams, CIT teams, that are specifically designed to transport these people to hospitals. I think that somebody in the mental health profession told me recently that there was a grant to do that. But now and I do understand, these cops are not being trained to deal with mental health.
So the CIT, is this a thing in other cities?
Yes, and it's successful.
They should be on the front lines as well.
Yep.
They should be on the scene at the same time.
Absolutely. And it's like, I can't tell you how many times that I have heard of reports from different areas, different states, that a family called the police, because what are you supposed to do if there's an emergency? You're supposed to call 911. Yeah. So the cops show up that somebody is sitting in the corner with self-harm intentions or whatever it was, or they're just holding a butter knife or whatever. You've got scared cop with gun. Guess what? You've got dead person.
Well, we've been, as a society, we've been trained, we've been programmed to think that person's crazy,
right?
And dismissive,
right? And
we dismiss somebody. You've totally written them off. They don't mean anything.
That's right, that they don't deserve to live. Because if they cannot conform to how society thinks
how we think,
that they do not have a value. And that it's okay to go in and shoot somebody. Now, there was, oh my goodness, years ago, that it was a lawsuit that I read because I was doing like process serving. Yes, I did that too.
You've done it all, sewing factory to everything.
I was going to be a bounty hunter at one point. No kidding.
Did you see where Dog the Bounty Hunter's ex-wife died?
No.
She did. She died in the last couple of days. Sorry, I didn't mean to bust your train of thought. But
that's okay, because my maiden name was Beth Chapman, so I'm really glad that I got over that. But I sat and I read the summons, and it was a lawsuit against, and I'm trying to remember, I don't remember if it was Tazewell County, I think it was Sheriff's Department, because somebody had been in a mental health crisis. She was in the corner. They came in, fired bean bags at this woman, blinded her. Now, that was probably in about 2005, 2006. So this has been going on a while. And what happens a lot of times is that families that have these things happen to them are afraid of retaliation when they speak out.
Of course.
Whether it's abuse that's going on in the county jails, whether it's road officers, whether it's prison, all this stuff like that, they are afraid of retaliation because that they can't get to the family members. They punish their loved ones. We had it happen to us. Yeah.
Elaborate a little bit, and we'll kind of get to a conclusion here.
Okay.
But go ahead and elaborate on that for a second.
As far as like Sullivan County, it was a matter of fighting with these people, and I know that there was a gentleman that
bullying.
Oh my God! I mean, they weren't as horrible as they could have been, but as far as the prison system, TDOC, which is Tennessee Department of Corrections, one of the first places that he got sent was the Trousdale. It's a new private facility. I'm trying to remember what it is. There's been so many.
Something I wanted to get into is privatization of prisons. We may save that for another time, but there's money to be made.
It was absolutely unreal. They were keeping him locked down. They were feeding them on styrofoam trays. He was not getting his medication. That was when I started.
It's a business.
That was when I started calling TDOC. Let me tell you something. They hate my name. And I don't care. And he went through the therapeutic community. He went from Mountain City, and he was lowest level security as far as Mountain City. And then in an effort to try to help him and going through the parole, that's a show in itself because it's just shaming people. And it's like, shame on that parole officer that would dare snicker at my husband because he bobbled the word, that he did. I mean, anxiety disorder, how many of us can say subsequently on a good day, that was my bad because I wrote that.
I think just as general people walk around, I believe that almost everybody has an anxiety disorder of some degree.
And so they made him read that. And the guy, it was a video, the hearings officer, I look up and he's snickering, and I thought, oh, you did not. So anyhow, they put him in therapeutic community, which is the new money-making project for the state of Tennessee. In Morgan County. Did you ever hear of Brushy Mountain?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Guess what? They closed down Brushy Mountain. They built Morgan County. Same people.
Okay. But they just shut down the Brushy Mountain and made it into something new.
They have a place called the Triangle. And that, you talk about Thunderdome again. Now, when Michael...
Do they all have to sleep? Is it an open pod system like you're talking about?
No, it was just a collection of housing units. And the officer had told Michael when he first got there, this was the orientation of the new inmates. They said this is a hands-on facility, which meant they will beat you down. Michael, even as far as witnessing the trauma and stuff like that, unbelievable.
That's PTSD. We're talking about so many different disorders.
Yeah, I mean, there's something that's called post-incarceration syndrome that is a form of PTSD that occurs to people that have served time.
They have to sleep with one eye open.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, imagine that. But anyhow, it's just, and see, this is what I was telling you, because this subject is so vast.
Oh, man. We're going to have to do another one at some point in time. We'll have to kind of pick up. So, in conclusion, what do you want to say?
We need prayer. Dissociative
Without a doubt.
No, really. Dissociative identity disorder is very much real. And if you've got a loved one that is behaving in a bizarre manner, because a lot of times families, familiarity, they just think it's like, yeah, dude's being weird again.
Familiarity breeds contempt.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But we also don't see it. We see it so much we don't see it.
And that's what I was trying to get at early on in the conversation, was that you were so used to your husband. You've had this training in the past, although DID may not have been even a thing at that point in time. Were you so familiar with your husband?
No, I ask questions. That's how I know my husband so well. Is that when he started behaving in a totally abnormal manner, I knew something was severely wrong. That and God. That is exactly what has gotten me through all this stuff. Without God, I would have lost my mind. My husband was dying, and I was dying right along with him. Because where one goes, the other goes.
That's right. Anything else you want to say?
Oh, just enjoyed the opportunity. I truly did. There are so many things. I've got ideas for your show.
All right. I'm listening. I'm always, hey, look.
Oh, yeah, I'll write them down for you. I'll give you a bullet point.
Yeah, for sure. That's, I really appreciate having you on the show.
I've enjoyed this.
Thank you so much. It's, we've already been at it over an hour. So.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's usually about the attention span of people, I think. That's when I listen to podcasts, about an hour is about all I can do per podcast.
And maybe that's good that we jumped around, because we're not bored, are we?
No. People may be like, oh man, they're jumping around like crazy. Are they neurotic or something?
No,
but
it's ADD.
Yeah, it's ADD. Good. But I mean, it's just, I think we tied up everything.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions or concerns.
Oh yeah, you're welcome to.
Shoot your email again.
Sure, it's haycraftministries@gmail.com. And you can also find it on YouTube, Haycraft Ministries. You'll probably have to type it in, because it ain't going to show up on no search unless you do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's HAY Craft.
Yes, HAYCRAFT. Yep.
Thank you again for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, much love to everybody out there. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you again next time.